You're listening to Becoming an Expat, the ultimate threat to the mundane 9-to-5 life. If you want to live life on your terms, in your favorite place, keep listening. Your host is a paramedic turned author, entrepreneur, and international lifestyle expert, Shannon Enett.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm super excited today because I have on the line Corey Coates, a Canadian that lived in Costa Rica for 8.5 years, and now he's on to new things. He's on the road. I first ran into Corey. He actually extended an invitation to be on his podcast this week in Costa Rica as an author of the Becoming an Expat Costa Rica book. And ever since that interview, we've become fast friends, and I'm always excited about the opportunity to talk with this guy. Corey, how in the world are you doing?
Shannon, I could talk to you all day long. You're amazing. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing, Corey?
I'm great. I'm a little cold, but I'm good.
Yeah, where are you calling from today?
I'm actually just outside of Toronto, Canada. I'm home for a longer stay this time, and I'm in a little town called Listowel, Ontario, which is about 90 minutes west of Toronto. So I'm out here in the snow belt, watching my mom and dad decorate their house for the holidays and trying to keep warm.
Yeah, how much snow is on the ground out there?
There's not. This is driving me crazy up here. I don't understand. You know, they have like these, bursts of snow that just cover the land. You'll see like a foot or 2 feet, like buffalo style, I guess is what we're calling it now. And then all of a sudden it rains and it's like 5-6 degrees Celsius, and then it all melts. Then it snows again, and then ice. So I don't really know what I've gotten myself into, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how you got yourself in Costa Rica. Well, tell me about your journey from Canada to Costa Rica.
Canada to Costa Rica, that was about 8.5 years ago now. I was here in Canada kind of suffering my last winter, and I was doing a little bit of radio editing for a commercial production house, and I was running a project recording studio at the same time. And it was maybe about 2006, 2007 that I heard about something called podcasting from a great guy who was doing a radio show on KFI in Los Angeles, Leo Laporte. And I got super excited about this notion of anybody with a computer and an internet connection and a good microphone could produce and distribute their own content. So I started getting into podcasting. And as I started doing it, I felt like, wow, not only is this really an amazing medium, that is fresh and new and has a lot of interesting talent out there, this is also something that can be mobile and can be taken anywhere. So at that time, I was, I guess 31 years old maybe. And I really didn't have any ties. I didn't have any significant assets in Canada. And a couple of my friends were, moving abroad. They were going to places like Peru and Costa Rica and China, all teaching English as a second language. So what I did is I used that as a vehicle. I thought this is a great opportunity to get certified to teach English and move to a foreign country, but bring my audio engineering skills and this podcasting thing kind of with me and use it as a chance to develop not only a business idea and develop something that I'm interested in and passionate about, but also in a way kind of develop myself, really test myself in a foreign country where I don't speak the language, I don't understand the culture, and really kind of measure myself as a man, as an entrepreneur, and as a talent. So that's kind of where it all came from. And then I got certified and I picked a country and I moved down with my then girlfriend to Costa Rica, found a job teaching English and kept podcasting.
Why Costa Rica?
It was funny. We were going to go to South Korea because everyone said, look, all the money's in South Korea for English teachers. And of course, money sounds good. And we finished our TESOL course and we got our certification. And my girlfriend and I went out for Korean food. We thought, okay, we better sample the food, understand what we're about to get ourselves into. And we hated it. I mean, we hated it all. It was horrific. Everything tasted the same. There was way too much kimchi and everything. The shrimp had like eggs in them. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And even if this was just a bad sampling of Korean food, my girlfriend and I looked at each other and said, this is just not going to work for us. A couple friends of ours who were another couple from our area took a similar certification course and decided they were going to move to Costa Rica. And they said, we're going to move down there. We've got a house that we've rented and we're looking for roommates. Are you guys interested? And 30 days later, we bought our plane tickets and just went. And we loved it.
That is efficient. Boy, I got to tell you, you never know what kind of things, originate some of our decisions. And bad Korean food landed you 8 years in Costa Rica. That's phenomenal.
You're absolutely right. I mean, good Korean food could have landed me 10 years in the Orient. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
we
I mean,
won't know.
it's funny. It's so funny you say that, Shannon, because look, I mean, I look back on, as we all do, the last, 10, 15 years of my life, and the most unusual circumstances led to the most remarkable events. And especially as we travel abroad, and this is what we do, we learn really quickly that those little things that kind of scratch at your door, those little opportunities that seem to just magically arrive, the most of us, we ignore them. We dismiss them immediately. But the nomads like you and I, we gravitate towards them. We chase them. We know that is opportunity knocking.
Absolutely. So, how hard was it logistically to move your life in 30 days?
Not hard at all. I mean, I had a good job. I had a good client base with my project recording studio. I had a lot of things kind of laid out for me. And the thing about Canada specifically is that these things are so well laid out in this kind of semi-socialized structure here that you can very easily plot and plan and scheme and envision the next 30, 40 years of your life. And that's actually what scared the hell out of me, is that I was sitting there at that time going, what it is that I'm doing now, I can be doing very readily in 40 years. What I'm doing is not going to go away. And there was still very much a fire in my belly where it said, look, I'm in a great position right now with no children, no house, no mortgage, etc.
Right.
That I could literally pack up a couple bags. Back then, you were allowed to carry, I think, 70 pounds. Now it's like 50 in one bag. But there you could, bring 2 bags with 70 pounds each. I'm like, I can get a lot of stuff in a 70-pound bag. And we just picked it up and we just cashed in our chips, so to speak. And I gave my notice at the job I was working. I gave the notice with the production company I was working with as well. And we found a replacement teacher for the students that I was teaching in the recording sessions. And that was it. I just bought the plane tickets and went. But it really came down to the one big thing, Shannon, which was buy the ticket first and then work backwards from there. And then figure
Absolutely.
What the hell do I have to do now?
Yeah,
And I've
done fire under you.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is you get inspired and you go on Expedia or whatever. It's like, oh my God, that's a good price on that ticket. Just buy the damn thing.
Right.
And then see what you're going to have to do how am I going to make that happen now?
Right. I have a lot of readers ask me, what is important to bring? What should we get rid of or ditch? What did you pack in those 70 pounds?
More things that I didn't need than what I did. And it was funny because I thought the same thing a lot of people would before they moved to another country, especially if they're going there to work. What should I wear? What kind of clothes should I have? All of those things. And I was the dumb guy who packed things like extra toothpaste and suntan lotion and not realizing, hello, they have suntan lotion in other places. I guess some of the things that I brought with me, though, I think were critical, were those electronics that you can't live without. Those are the things that outside of, and again, for lack of a better term, those first world countries that we can't just readily go and buy, or we can't buy them on the cheap. So, bringing your laptop, bringing your unlocked iPhone or whatever you have. If you've got a really nice set of headphones that you like, get 2, those things, passport and your cash. And that's kind of it. Also, I think it was really important to make sure that you set up whatever funding source you're going to have, make sure that it's in place in a way that you're going to be easily able to access cash, using a bank that is going to be amiable to making withdrawals abroad, making sure that you don't have a withdrawal limit on your card. Even furthermore, making sure that you're even able to do it. In some cases, it's against the law to be living in a foreign country and then withdrawing money from another bank account from your country of citizenship. So taking the steps and the precautions necessary to make sure that you legally expatriate, if that is the decision that you make,
right,
I think is prudent. So what am I throwing in the bag? A lot of documents, really, to make sure that everything's covered and make sure that what I'm doing is the right thing to do. So that's kind of the due diligence. Everything else you can buy. If you can't get it, you can get it shipped. Unless you're going to live in a mud hut somewhere in Zimbabwe, you're going to find something at the mall. You'll be okay.
Very good, very good. Now, you moved to a very tropical environment for Canada. How long did it take to acclimate to the weather, to the culture, to the pace? How long did it take you before you felt at home?
How long does it take to drink about 3 beer?
Well, that depends. How thirsty are you?
It was about that long, frankly. I mean, the culture and everything else, I mean, that's an entirely different story. But, moving to the tropics from Canada was relatively easy. Canada, just like in most of the U.S., we enjoy very warm summers and then, around 30 degrees Celsius. And in Costa Rica, where I moved initially in the Central Valley, it was in that neighborhood as well, 26 to 31 degrees at any given time. So it was pretty easy to get accustomed to the weather. But, understand that I moved there with zero Spanish under my belt. That's an advantage that I think a lot of Americans have as opposed to Canadians. We don't have Spanish, specifically here in Canada. It's just not prevalent. We don't learn it in school. We don't run into it in our culture. We have a little bit of French kind of force fed to us on the English side of Canada, but that's it. So, Lo quiero Taco Bell was pretty much all I knew when I showed up there. I didn't understand the currency. I didn't know if they sold bacon. I didn't know what people were talking about. I heard that it's close to Nicaragua and that's really dangerous. I mean, I went down completely blind. And maybe that's not for everyone, but for me, I mean, that was the adventure of it, was to, instead of spending an enormous amount of time doing research and understanding what I'm about to face, just face it, and see what you're going to be able to make of it. That's what worked well for me.
Do you feel like that helps you grow as an individual?
Oh God, yes. I mean, it's so interesting because, we have to be really careful as we live abroad and we understand different cultures and we learn different languages to not, I don't know how to best put it other than to say, not become pretentious about it. We could readily sit back and say, well, Canada is like this and it shouldn't be because these places are like that and vice versa. And the idea is to just be quiet, be patient, and to observe, the world that is around you and learn what you can from it and absorb as much of it as you can to understand how can I utilize this information to become more compassionate, to become more giving, to become more empathetic to the people that are around me, as opposed to becoming more judgmental. And I think that was the learning experience for me, was to take everything as an experience of increasing my compassion as opposed to increasing my understanding.
Yeah, you really see travelers swing in either direction on that topic. They either become more larger themselves, where, well, I have been to X, Y, and Z countries. I've been to this many countries. I am now that much more important, that much more of a threat. Or people who have been to that many countries and realize that I am so much smaller, because look at all the cultures, look at all the different things that are in play in the world and the life around me. I am this little tiny pawn in this, on this board. So it is difficult.
Well, yeah. We have to ask, I mean, how many of the things that we undertake in these travels is really just narcissism and putting a little push pin into a map and sort of showing off, I've been here and I've done that. But, I can count, so many of my friends who have been to 75, 80 countries, but look, we can all go to a country for 5 or 6 days and walk around and say, we get it. I'm a Canadian citizen. I'm back in Canada. I was born and raised here. I still don't get it. There's just so much depth and so many layers to all of this that if we really start unraveling the tapestry of a country and its culture, we can appreciate that each individual country and each individual culture has so much depth that there's no one who would really ever get it. I worked, as I said, in language services, and I think that's a good analogy, is that anyone who tells you they're completely fluent in another language that they didn't grow up in is lying to you. You really don't. No matter how good you are at Spanish, you'll never be so fluent that you really get it. And you can see that when, for example, someone who is not a native speaker of English, comes to a foreign country, and you see, the idiosyncrasies and the little nuances and cadence that exist within language, you understand immediately that, boy, you're not really fluent if you can't carry on a conversation with common folk. And the analogy there would be, similarly, when you move to a foreign country, you could never really understand the culture to the degree that you would even the language. You don't know the nuance if you've not been born into it.
Yeah, and even in addition to that, as a native English speaker, I go to certain areas in the South or, different areas. I'm from San Diego. So if I go to a different area, sometimes I have no idea what they're talking about, even in English.
Yeah.
So,
I was just I was in Alabama, and then I went to Louisiana, and then I was in Missouri, and then I was in Texas for a while. And as I made that progression, it was almost a progression that was of linguistic understanding. Going from Alabama to Texas, I understood more and more and more as I got towards Texas, because in Alabama and Louisiana, I had no idea what people were talking to me about, but I loved it. I mean, it was just, if you go there with an open mind and an open heart, it's amazing, how much you can really absorb and how much you can learn in these situations. But, that's the thing, is that even regionally within specific languages in other countries, and look, I mean, even in Costa Rica, there are 6 or 7 different, very distinct dialects of Spanish that are spoken in Costa Rican Spanish. So, to walk out of Costa Rica after X amount of days, months, or years and profess that you really speak it well or you understand the culture is absurd.
Right, right. Do you have any regrets with your 8.5 years in Costa Rica?
Not a one. Oh my God, not a one. And I'm still in process for residency down there because I adore the country. Central America is very near and dear to my heart. So there's something about the people and the spirit of that region that speaks to me very well. I mean, we can all say, climate, healthy food, and cheap living, and beaches. Right. Of course, these are all incredible things. But there's an intangible. In Canada, we say that je ne sais quoi. That sort of, I just can't put my finger on what it is about this place, but there's a magic there. I mean, you've lived there, Shannon, you know it. There's something mystical and magical and romantic and intangible about that place that, just, it alters you forever. And yeah. I'm never, ever going to look back on any of my time with Costa Rica with regret. The good, the bad, and the ugly are all part of that tapestry that I adore and look fondly upon.
Did you watch Eat, Pray, Love, the movie?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No, but somebody brought that up last night, so I guess I have to now.
It's my favorite book, and I really enjoyed the movie. They did a great job depicting the book. Lots of times that doesn't work out so well. Well, I thought they did a great job. Well, there's a part where this wise man tells the main character, Julia Roberts, to smile with her heart. And I think Costa Rica, when you're in the jungle and you're by the waterfalls, you're in the cloud forest, I feel like you naturally smile with your heart.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting because when you look at especially the Latino culture and what might be passed off as sort of laissez-faire and nonchalant, it's not. It's a depth of understanding, or at least an acceptance of the way things are. And that's one of the things that I really did enjoy about Costa Rica, is that it's okay to not know everything that's going to happen in your life. It's okay to live day by day. It's okay to be present and just understand what's happening around you right now and experience it fully, enjoy it, embrace it, to drink life in moment by moment. And that's what Costa Rica is. Now, does that mean that the addition on your house might take another 30 days to get built? Of course it does. But it also means that, the addition that is being built on your house is secondary to the things that are really important, which are just simple things. Like, I mean, look, I've eaten a beet and wept. I've had fruit that changed the way that I think about food forever in a place like Costa Rica. I've, been on a bicycle going down the street and someone genuinely looks at you and smiles and waves. And this is not just some kooky person on the street who waves at people. These are just people who look at you and see another soul. And it's interesting, I have a lot of friends from India and, who lived in Costa Rica for periods of time. And it is the namaste. It's the looking and the seeing of, I see and I honor the soul in you that is also the soul in me. And I find that with Costa Ricans is that they look at you and they get it, because it's like, you're a human just like me.
Right. Now, how did the intrinsic pace of the country resonate with you? Did it ever kind of fight against your ambitious, eager young ways, or how did you resolve that, if so?
Oh God, every day, every day. It's so ingrained in us that it's 24/7, and we're dreamers and we're schemers and we're plotters, we're planners. That's who we are as North Americans, and it's mega frustrating when we have a vision for something that can be accomplished. We set out a timeline, we budget it, and there's just absolutely no good reason why it shouldn't happen. And then life gets in the way. And that life, though, is, I don't use that word loosely. It really is life that gets in the way of having it. But, and I when I was training and teaching English teachers who were working in Costa Rica, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years, one of the first sort of little speeches that I made them endure was, explaining that if you were to move to Costa Rica and plant an oak tree, thinking that you're going to have something that's strong and mighty and sturdy and tested and true, it's only the first wind that's just going to snap that thing and break it in two. Look around this country. Everything is palm trees. Everything flexes with the breeze. Everything is a little bit pura vida. Everything just has to find a way to work within its surroundings. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's kind of the analogy that we're all trying to find in life, right? Is we're looking for a way to live comfortably within our surroundings. And for me, that was really not what most would say, I think, a North American laying down and accepting just the way things are and just begrudgingly putting up with Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. It's more understanding that there are amazing ways to accomplish incredible things. It's just the way that your oak tree grows in the United States is not the way a tree grows in the tropics. If you want a great, long, tall tree, you have to plant the right kind of tree, and you just have to bend.
Mm-hmm. So that's what you found yourself doing.
Absolutely. I mean, that was it at the end of the day, is going, like there were a lot of times where, for example, when I was teaching English classes, that I would walk in, and for the first 6 months, it's like, oh my God, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Where is everybody? People drift in at 7:15, 7:20. They talk about their weekend, and then halfway through the class, somebody has to leave, and their phone rings, and it's like, what is this place? What's wrong with you guys? Do you understand that we're here for a reason? I came here. I'm ready. You should be too.
Right.
But then it also got to a point where I realized that me trying to impose upon them the way that we do things was not a productive learning environment. And it's also not a productive business environment. Mm-hmm. Whereas there's something that I learned when I was working with Intel, and they had something within middle management that they called, it's not a verb, but it's tropicalizar, which basically means tropicalize. Uh-huh. So a lot of these large Fortune 500 companies that move in and set up operations in Central and South America, they have these training seminars to teach their middle management who are coming down and expatriating to foreign countries how to tropicalize their business practices, how to tropicalize their approach in order to understand how are you going to be able to work with the grain here in the culture to hit those results. If you, and again, Shannon, it's all about budgeting. If you say to yourself, look, I think it's going to take 100 days to do something in North America, and it's going to cost $100. If you're willing to sit down and just admit before you even get out of the gate, it's going to take me 140 days, and it's going to take me $160 in Costa Rica. If you're cool with that, then it's going to flow, and it's going to work, and you're going to get there. So I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned, is just be patient and budget yourself, your time, your money, and your life realistically to the culture that you're deciding that you're going to live in, because whatever it is that we think that we know, and however we want to repot our life, the only thing you're going to end up doing, if that's the attitude that you bring with you to a place like Costa Rica, you're going to end up in a gated community, importing all of your goods, shopping at one grocery store that's terribly expensive, and have no friends, Right. And then in 2-3 years, you're going to end up moving back to the United States and look at Costa Rica and go, oh, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. Whereas, I know an enormous amount of expatriates who've been living in Costa Rica successfully, and that's not their approach at all.
Right.
They are incredibly happy people. And while the grumpy gringos, as I like to coin them, are going to be turning around in their grave and their Crocs, at 75, 80 years old, my expat friends down there in Costa Rica are going to be 120, just laughing off life, because they're taking it easy, and they're realizing that, hey, you know what, this is it. This is it. This is all we've got, is this moment in front of us. And it's beautiful. So drink it, absorb it, live it.
I think realistic expectations is key. That and flexibility, which is what you were basically saying there. I've seen so many people work against the grain, against the culture, against the time. Well, I can't get any of my errands done. It takes a whole day to get one errand done. Okay, count on that. Accept that. Don't fight against it, because that's not a battle you're going to win, nor should you, because it's not really your place, right?
It does. And you know what? It's funny because I use it to my advantage on a number of occasions, because look, I comically would look at the situation that things would not be done on a particular day or a particular time. And who cares? But then, you can also use that as your excuse. So if you decide that, hey, I'm going to blow off the afternoon and I'm going to go surfing and I'm going to lay on the beach and have a rum, because you know what? It's Friday and it's gorgeous, and it's not the end of the world if I don't do it till Monday. And you know what? In North America, I mean, you can't really get away with that, but there you certainly can. And no one is going to email you, call you, be angry at you. They're going to just say, pura vida. That's what it is.
Right.
So, I mean, it really depends on what it is that you want to do, but it's all about deciding whether or not are you going to try and impose your culture, your system, your structure, your understanding of things onto another, culture. And if that's the case, be prepared to fail.
What other advice would you give to people considering the move to Costa Rica?
You have to go first, don't just move. You hear this everywhere, but Costa Rica is such a ridiculously diverse country for as small as it is. Even within like this, just the Central Valley alone, from barrio to barrio around San Jose is a completely different country. I was living in Santana, and I was living in Heredia, and I was living in Jaco. So I'd been around at least 3 distinct regions, and I traveled fairly extensively while I lived there. I spent a lot of time in the Caribbean as well. And it was a matter of knowing and understanding what it is that you want, but also being flexible to change. And again, we keep coming back to that central point, which is flexibility. And don't buy right away. I mean, I know a lot of, unfortunate North Americans who went down to a place like Nosara or, up in the Northwest Peninsula, and they looked at a couple places for a week or two, and they said, great, let's dump like $600,000-$700,000 into a place.
Yeah.
And then they move there and they go, oh man, now what? Because they can't get all the things that they're used to. It's a long drive to anywhere they want to be. And then they realize maybe I should have been living a little closer to the city, or maybe the amenities that I need are going to be here.
The electricity goes out, or the water goes out, and they're like, what?
Every day. And your internet, forget about it. But, there's so many things that you have to just sort of experience. And if you can afford the luxury, that would be my advice. If you can afford the luxury of spending at least 6 months, staying in various locations, spend 2 months on the West Coast. Spend 2 months in the Central Valley. Spend 2 months in the Northwest, or whatever area that you think is going to be best for you. There's so many furnished, beautiful rentals out there for reasonable rates that if you're going to make the investment of your life in a country like Costa Rica, then you certainly can make the investment of renting and traveling for 6 months to understand what it is you're about to get into.
Couldn't agree with you more. I have a whole section in my book, Becoming an Expat Costa Rica, that says, try before you pry. And I got that saying as from my former life as a paramedic. We used to say you got to try the door on a car in a wreck before you go and try to pry it open or break into a house. You actually got to try to see if it'll open for you before you go breaking things. And it's like a level of commitment. Same thing with Costa Rica on a much larger scale. You got to try it out, see how it fits, see how it feels for you individually before you make that large commitment and potential financial damage.
Yeah, and don't see a change as a failure, see a change as a natural part of the universe we live in.
Yeah.
Not to get overly philosophical, but let's face it, everything is in a constant state of change around us. Everything is fluctuating. Nothing is real, really. Everything is just always shifting. And if we fixate ourselves on whatever our vision was for our Costa Rican life to be, and we don't meet that, a lot of people, unfortunately, just view that as a failure and hit the eject button and go, Costa Rica sucks. It might actually be you that sucks. Who knows? It could be that what you didn't do is you didn't say, yeah, you know what? I moved to Jaco, but I don't really like it. This really isn't my kind of town. And then instead of going and checking out like Atenas or, looking at Puriscal or Ciudad Colón or all these amazing little communities, they just said, well, if Jaco's no good, then the rest of the country is probably no good either.
Right.
And then they go black and white, that 0-1 binary decision, as opposed to let's just see if there's a little bit of gray area in here and make this a watercolor. Don't make it, this kind of static approach to deciding what you're going to do with your life. Because if the thing is, like Shannon and anybody can tell you, I'm sure if you look back on your life, you know that all of those static decisions that you made did not always produce the results that you anticipated. It's always those unanticipated results that lead to the most remarkable events in your life. And if we can say, that's kind of the approach that I'm going to bring with me to Costa Rica, you're going to have enormous success, because wow, do magical paths open up for you in Costa Rica if you have an open heart and an open mind.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, tell me a little bit about what you're up to now. I know that you have, you're in Canada and you're on a new path of exploration and adventure. What's going on with you?
Yeah, I fell in love and I moved and it didn't work. And now I'm just kind of in Canada going, okay, what am I going to do next? And it's funny because I'm faced with the exact same set of parameters that I had 8.5 years ago when I moved to Costa Rica, that I run a podcast production company, which means that I'm able to work from anywhere. And I don't really have any ties or any assets. And that's not to say that I don't have any worth, I guess. I don't know. But maybe I'm just saying that because I'm in Canada, and you get comparative in North America. But I feel like right now, it's like I have an amazing job. I have a great team of employees that I work with. And I have a functional passport. So it's why the heck wouldn't I go out there and enjoy some of this stuff? So, I mean, I'm just on my short itinerary. This weekend, I'm going to the Bahamas, and then I'm going to Montreal, and then I'm going to Cancun, and then I'm going to Panama, and then I'm going to Prague, and then I might come back to Canada. I love the southern United States, so I might spend a little bit of time in like Charleston, South Carolina. And I've got a friend over in Malaysia who is just probing me daily to come to Kuala Lumpur and take a look at what's going on over there. And of course, Vietnam, for some reason, just keeps beckoning to me. So really, all I'm doing is I'm going on Expedia and I'm just buying plane tickets. I'm just going to see what happens. Like the coolest thing now, like we see it with this ubiquity of high-speed internet, the ability to become digitally nomadic, and Airbnb and the VRBO and these kind of services that are out there, and cheap airfare everywhere. Why the hell wouldn't you do it? So I'm just going to keep traveling and decide, or at least maybe find a place that speaks to me. And if it speaks to me, then I'll try and stay. Or I might go back to Costa Rica. I just don't know. I really don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, you say because you don't have all these belongings, you feel like, there's not a lot of worth because you're in North America where you're compared to people who have a lot of things. But to people like you and me, the freedom that not having those things is worth so much to me. I feel like it's very hard to place an accurate value on it, in our society that's much more money centric. And but I'm right there with you. And sometimes having that much freedom, it does get difficult. Everyone's saying, oh, yeah, a rough life, but honestly, there are so many places to go. It's hard to decide where, I get caught up sometimes. Wait, where do I want to live next? It's so.
Yeah. And I mean, there's other things, too. Like we walk down the street and we look at quaint houses and we go, oh, that would be nice. I could be mowing that yard. And but there's so many factors to take into consideration, I guess. But, all I'm trying to do from day to day is just be the best person that I can and keep everything minimal. Because, everything, I don't want to get all Buddhisty on here, at the end of your podcast, but let's get real. Attachment leads to suffering, and everything that you're attached to, all of those things that you think are a part of your life and what defines you, your reputation, your assets, your bank balance, all of these things, they're really not anything, and they're really not of any value at the end of it. I read an amazing article recently on the oldest woman in Canada just died at 113.
I read that too.
And she said basically, work hard. Everyone else's life is none of your business, and have a cold beer every now and then.
I loved that. That was so cute. Yeah.
And that's kind of it. That really kind of is it. It's just don't worry so much about what other people are thinking. Do your best. Whatever you're doing, just do your best at it. And have a cold beer and enjoy it from time to time. And everything else will, it'll just work itself out.
Well, Corey, I couldn't be happier to talk to you. It's been great catching up. And thank you very much for your time and your insight and your experience.
Anytime.
All right. Have a great one.
You too.
You've been listening to Becoming an Expat. We'd like to hear from you. Email us your questions and share your stories about taking the leap into your new life abroad.
Are you tired of the daily grind or living for the weekends? Why put up with the life you dread? Learn how to live your life another way today. In our academy, you'll learn how to live life on your terms, what environment makes you thrive, and become the best you possible. So if you're at a crossroad in life and don't know which way to go or need to make a change, sign up for access to all of our courses at www.lifeanotherway.com.